Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. Thought I'd kind of catch everybody up to speed on what's been going on the farm. We're just about done with our first cut. It's been sporadic, I guess. We're getting 3 or 4 good days, then a couple of rain days. So what I've been doing is on the good days, we're knocking hay down and baling, and then when the rain comes in, I'm hauling hay using the cab tractor, the Deutz, to get it home. So it's been working out pretty good. We do 6 farms, and we just finished up number 5 and number 6 this past week. We need to go back to what I call farm 3, which is Bill's place, and there's a couple small meadows in that they stay wet, so you got to pick a good dry stretch to get them. But I was looking also yesterday when I was hauling up one of the loads of feeding out to the cows, is that the one meadow on the home farm is almost up to my knees in just clover, so in vetch and timothy. So where we normally have a couple 2-3 weeks lull to get caught up on things, get some videos done and that, I'm afraid we're going to have to just start cranking again. With all the second cut, I like to wrap all of that. On number 6 farm, got a deal with friends of ours that they want 2 or 3 dry bales of second cut for their horses and alpacas or whatever it is. So we're going to do that. But one of the things that I've been hearing a lot is it worth doing your own hay or not? And it's a good, valid question. Because some things that you have to take into consideration if you're going to do your own hay is you have to own your own equipment, and the biggie is time. Do you have time to do it? Now, I have a shop here. It's a repair shop. The great thing about that is I can check in, check out, depending on what's going on. And I try to leave, Claude here most of the time to handle the phone calls and get caught up on repairs, and while I'm out in the field trying to get the hay cut and baled, and we both work together on wrapping. But one of the things that I did is gradually, the big thing was time. It was taken to use a conventional rake, which covers 9 foot, was the amount of time that you mowed. It was the amount of time that you raked, was the amount of time that you baled, but we could cut it in half if we double windrowed it. So if we had 5 hours of mowing, we'd have 5 hours of raking, and we'd have 2.5 hours of baling, depending on how thick it is. If it's really thick, then of course the baler is going to go slower, so you could have 3 hours. What I've done every year is I've stepped up. I've gone bigger. And what do I mean by bigger? Alright. The one thing I did was I stepped up last year to a John Deere 530 that will do 5x5 bales, dry hay. I already had the Deutz 7085, so I knew that, and that girl paid for it. I knew that it could run it with no problem. And the other thing that I was looking at was, how can I cut my raking time down? And I'll be honest with you, I was watching somebody's YouTube channel, one of the bigger farmers, using the V-rake. and it's a ground driven rake. And you can set it to the coverage that you want. What I found with the John Deere 530 was the bigger the windrow, the better she liked it. So I purchased a used V-rake for, I think it was $2,800. And with it fully extended, it's 28 foot. So it covers 3 of my conventional, we run 2 disc mowers. One is an 8-footer and the other one is a 9 something. 8-foot something and 9-foot something. But when I extend that all the way out, that will cover 3 windrows. So now, if I mowed for 3 hours, it only takes me an hour to rake. If I mowed for 3 hours, it only takes me an hour to bale. See what I did? I cut down the amount of labor and time that I'm in the field. And I'll tell you, when you got to put up, quite a bit of hay, it sure does save a lot of time. Now, I've got guys that are still, using round balers and they're just still single windrow in it. And I'm like, why? And they're doing 2 cuts, so it's not like they've got a lot of hay in front of that baler. And they say, well, because it plugs up. I find that my balers will plug a heck of a lot easier on light hay than it will if she's feeding strong. Because what happens is your hay pickup starts up into the chamber, and once that chamber grabs it, if you can keep the travel time on your tractor at the same rate that baler can take it in, you will have some of the nicest bales out there. I don't have all the fancy stuff in my tractor. I don't have something telling me I'm going too far to the left, too far to the right, bring it back to the middle. I have to go by eye. When I kick the bale out, if I look and I see it's leaning a little bit too much to this side, that tells me I'm not spending enough time on that side, so I need to spend more time on that side. But that's the key to round baling. Square baling, that's different. But round baling, if it can grab and it is pulling as it's lifting, try that. But is it worth it to you? I mean, to me, is it worth it for us to put up our own hay? The answer is yes. I had most of the equipment anyways. All I lacked was mower, rakes, and balers. I had the tractors. For the 530 John Deere, I got $1,200. For the 335 John Deere, I give $4,500. Both of them can do wet or dry hay. The 530 is classified as a soft core. The 335 is hardcore. It just how tight it wraps it, when it's round baling. I bought 3 different rakes. The New Hollands, the one pull behind was $1,200. The 3-point hitch, or the trail mounted without the front wheel, I give $800 for that. And then for the V rake, under $3,000. The expensive part was the mowers. I didn't want somebody else's headaches when it came to the mowers. Mowers are finicky, and I'd always done sickle bar, and I really wanted to do disc. So I stepped out and I bought the Kuhn 4 years ago, and that was $11,900, brand new. And it looks just like brand new today. We've taken really good care of it. So 4 solid years of haying is doing good. for the last couple of years, we stepped out and we bought a used one. And I give $3,000 for one, and I give $2,800 for the other, and we could never get a year out of them. So this year, I stepped out and I looked at a brand new Frontier, and that was a 9 foot, 9'6" or something like that, just more. So I opted to go with that. But, you know, it all depends on what your situation is and what your setup is. You know, whether you're a hobbyist or, you know, organic, or, you know, whether you're running beef or alpacas or sheep or goats or horses, each one is unique. What kind of hay you need to put up. A lot of people will look at their first year and say, well, if I had to buy a tractor, a mower, a rake, and a baler, and I would suggest you buy those used, that's how much it's going to cost you per year, and that's not the case. With any piece of farming equipment, you can spread that out over 7 years when it comes to your taxes and stuff for amortization. The life of the equipment is a lot longer than 7 years, unless you're buying somebody else's headache. My theory has always been is if a dealer has it and it's used, there's a good reason why the dealer got it back, and because the guy bought another new one because it was starting to nickel and dime him. Do you have any mechanical skills? Can you fix your own stuff? How well do you adapt? I mean, how well do you learn? I mean, this stuff isn't rocket science. It's, you know, you get a feel for it. You know, like, when is the hay dry enough to bale for dry hay? When should you bale it for haylage? You can buy the testers that you can stick into the bale to see how much moisture is in the bale, and then try to have it a certain percentage. I don't. I go by looks. You know, I can tell if it's ready and when we need to be moving. But I watched somebody on YouTube say that, you know, the #1 scam was making your own hay. And I know he did it as clickbait just to get people to click on his video. But a lot of things he didn't take into consideration were, #1, $40 for the bale that he got wasn't worth it. It looked like straw. 2, he took the, as far as I'm concerned, the higher end of what a lot of the stuff cost, and then figured it into all 1 year instead of taking it over time. See, like, when you buy a brand new disc mower, you can get through, like, Wells Fargo and that leasing 5 to 7 years of payment. You know, can you pay it all off at once? Yeah, but if you want to spread it out so that, like, over 7 years' time, you're not paying out all that in 1 year. You're paying out 1/7 of it in that year. And then at year 7, you own it. Now, question 2 is, do you go round bales or square bales? And again, that depends on your situation and, you know, how much time you have. I do round bales. You cannot find any kids anymore that want to help in the hayfield. That's how we used to make extra money when we were young. Square bales are labor intensive. You know, you can get a kicker and kicker racks, but somebody's still got to handle them back at the barn. Whether you're mowing them away or in a building, unless you go out and you buy a lot of high-end equipment that the big farms use to stack it. Round bales are convenient. You know, some people like to, if they use net wrap on it versus string, it keeps them a lot longer and you don't have as much spoilage on the outside. Most of our dry hay that we put up, probably 2 to 3 inches in, is bad hay. What I call bad hay is kind of dark, but once you get into the bale, it's nice and green. And we leave ours outside uncovered. But I've got friends that tarp all their hay, stack it, and that works for them. Whatever works for you is the key. The other thing that he was figuring in, or trying to figure in, was he didn't have enough land to put up the hay. Well, we're in that same situation. I mean, if we put up just the home farm, I'd have to cut my herd back, which should be all right. But we do 6 farms, and we pay for one of those. And I always, for the other ones, I give those folks beef from our herd when we get them butchered, so that they get something as well. Because I feel that, you know, they were gracious enough to let us cut their hay and take care of their ground. The least I can do is give them some of the benefits that we got from the hay, and that is good quality grass-fed beef. Location, location, location. Maybe in that location that he's in, you know, hay ground is scarce. Up here, I've turned away 3 other farms that approached me this year and wanted to know if I would be willing to cut it. And I had to politely say I'd like to, but I don't have time. So when you're doing all this figuring, you have to figure it over the long haul. Now, my coon is going on 5 years, 4.5 years right now. Looks just like brand new. So it's all in how you take care of it. You need to exceed what the warranty and the manufacturer suggest. A lot of guys will check their oil in the spring when they're getting ready to get their hay equipment, and they won't touch it again until fall. If I use more any amount, I drain it out halfway through the season. And then at the end of the season, it gets drained, and then all brand new goes in for storage for the winter. And my stuff is stored outside. We use pallets. I set them on pallets so that they're off the ground. The last thing you want is dirt up on metal. It will corrode and rust. You have to maintain that equipment. If you don't have the skills when it comes to labor, of how to do mechanical stuff, if you can't weld, because you're going to have to weld at times. But there's a lot of things to look at, but not all in 1 year. You're not outpouring all that money in 1 year unless you went to the bank or you took out of your own pocket enough to cover everything for that 1 year. If you did that, then year 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7 are free. You don't have any payments. All you got is just fuel and breakdown and twine supplies. So I hope that's helped some of you guys trying to decide whether to do your own hay or not do your own hay. It's all whatever your operation is, what works for you. And if you have any questions or comments on what goes on in your area, put them in the comment section. I do read them. And on that note, I'll catch you on the next video. I know they're slow coming in, but once we get everything caught up, I'll get back out with the cows, and we've got more babies that since the last time we filmed the cows. And we'll go from there. All right, thanks so much for watching. You guys have a great day.